I'll say we appreciate everybody's presence this evening. Hopefully what we'll study will be helpful to you. I'll tell you a funny story. Brandon was, as usual, asking for the title of the lesson as I was driving over here, and I'm going to confess I was texting while I was driving. Don't do this, kids. Substitutes for Alfred, because it just auto-corrected. I was trying to put God, substitutes for God. And I'm sure he was thinking, I'm certain for a moment there, he was like, what in the world? And then I finally corrected it to God, and he said, that makes more sense. I'm not going to talk about substitutes for Alfred, okay? We're going to talk about substitutes for God. You think about substitutes. Some of you kids have substitutes at school, and if you were anything like me, you really enjoyed them or you really didn't enjoy them, and you wanted your real teacher there. Judy's like, I never had anybody not want me as a teacher, and wanted to substitute over her. We were just having a conversation today about, kind of thinking about people buying groceries, and groceries have gone up, and so the conversation sometimes goes to, well, buying store brand is cheaper than the regular brand, and we kind of had a conversation about. Some store brands I can do, and some I can't. You just can't substitute for the real thing. And I think of Sweet and Low, and those types of substitutes for sugar. And I guess I got this from my grandfather, but I use a lot of Sweet and Low. I've said in Austin at the congregation there that I was trying to cut back on it, but. It works for me. It doesn't work for me, but it's 0 calorie. It makes me feel better about myself. But it doesn't beat sugar. Come on. It's no substitute for sugar. It's a substitute, but it's not a real substitute for sugar. I drink Diet Coke. Some of you are like, oh, Diet Coke instead of Coke. Can you imagine? But I've just grown to, Parker's over there shaking his head. I didn't really care for it when it first came out, and now I really drink too much of it. And I want to tell a story, and I want to just preface all this with saying that this is maybe going to sound like Brandon's lesson a little bit from the other day. I hope it doesn't too much, but we'll talk about the children of Israel. We'll go to Jeremiah and talk about a chapter there, and how they were choosing substitutes for God. And I want to talk about that, and we'll kind of talk about how we should not get into that type of habit. And I think you all are probably sitting there going like, how can we do that? And we'll kind of get into the study here in just a second. But at this point in Jeremiah chapter 2, and you can go ahead and turn over there. I know y'all are waiting with bated breath. You was anxiously waiting to go over there. The children of Israel are and the southern kingdom of Israel is really kind of falling apart. The enemies are gathering around this area. Morality is being discarded. It looked to us maybe some of us maybe how we look at our current country today in some ways. And it clearly looks like they are substituting for God, and I think we can appreciate that we may see that today in our country and maybe even in our community. But let's go ahead and turn to Jeremiah chapter 2. I'm not there. I was close. Jeremiah chapter 2, and we'll start in verse 4. It says, "Hear ye the word of the Lord, O house of Jacob, and all the families of the house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, what iniquity have your fathers found in me, that they are gone far from me, and have walked after vanity, and are become vain. Neither said they, where is the Lord, that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, that led us through the wilderness, through a land of deserts and of pits, through a land of drought and of the shadow of death, through a land that no man passed through, and where no man dwelt. And I brought you into a plentiful country to eat the fruit thereof, and the goodness thereof. But when ye entered, ye defiled my land, and made mine heritage an abomination. The priest said not, where is the Lord? And they that handled the law knew me not. The pastors also transgressed against me, and the prophets prophesied by Baal. and walked after things that do not profit. Wherefore I will yet plead with you, saith the Lord, and with your children's children will I plead. For pass over the isles of Chittim and see, and send unto Kedar, and consider diligently, and see if there be such a thing. Hath the nation changed their gods, which are not yet no gods? But my people have changed their glory for that which that doth not profit. Be astonished, O ye heavens, at this, and be horribly afraid, but be ye very desolate, saith the Lord. For my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewn them out cisterns, broken cisterns, that can hold no water. And before we even get started, I want to ask a question. What if God, God's writing this, and man, he is just beating them over the head. I mean, there's some very strong words here. I mean, just disgust by God. What if he wrote to us today? What would he say about the congregation of Baytown? I want you to think about that. It's a very pointed question, but something that we really all should think about. Like, he's not gonna write us a letter. He's written us the letters that he's gonna write. But if he was writing a letter about all of us, and maybe think about it as an individual, what would he say? What would he say? All right. So Jeremiah presents a very clear warning about the danger of forsaking God. I think we can all appreciate warning signs. I think of a couple of spring breaks ago, I got the pleasure of driving our family in a Suburban up the Colorado mountains, and it was snowy and blowing and really beautiful. I mentioned this in a lesson previous, but there were warning signs. Now, some of them I could appreciate, hey, we're about to come around a curve, and while I'm doing that, my whole family is screaming at me, like, watch out, don't fall off the cliff. There's also some that are like, the signs that have these, they actually have places where if an 18-wheeler literally cannot turn, there's places where they can actually go straight and just basically like plow into a bank of snow and stop. It's pretty crazy. Those signs I didn't really appreciate very much. But warning signs we can appreciate because it's warning us of something that we either need to slow down or we're about to turn or whatever the case may be. Some of you may use Waze. And the one feature that we all appreciate is that there's a police that's sitting a mile away, right? We all appreciate warning signs when they're presented to us. Jeremiah presents several warning signs, and we'll kind of get into them. First, Jeremiah warns about the sin of humanism. Humanism, system of thought that centers on humans and their values, capacities, and worth, emphasizes reason, scientific inquiry, and human fulfillment in the natural world, and often rejects the importance of belief in God. This is what Jeremiah was warning the children of Israel that day. They started trusting in their own abilities and denying the role of God. They began trusting their own power and skills. They began taking credit for themselves. Humanism has been compared to plagiarism, and we see this type of behavior from the children of Israel. And we also see this type of behavior in people today. Do you participate? Do you participate in your own ability to be able to do things? Your own skill and reason over God's? Sometimes I find myself doing that. And guess what? Most of the time it doesn't really work out for me. A lot of people have done that. We've seen people suffer some severe consequences because they just knew more than what God did. Verse 7 of chapter 2, Jeremiah warns against materialism. I brought you into a plentiful country to eat the fruit thereof and the goodness thereof. But when ye entered, ye defiled my land and made mine heritage an abomination. People were abusing the blessings that God had given them. The people defiled the land. Today, we see people piling up possessions and failing to share with others those blessings. People abusing and wasting resources God has provided them. Do we participate in this? Jeremiah also warns against religious pluralism. You know, religious leaders gave into pressure of the religious neighbors. We see priests, and they say they don't even ask about God. The prophets were prophesying by Baal. And today, again, we see religious leaders compromising with the truth. We see things that we just cannot fathom. We see churches that have things that are in their doctrine. They have people participating in worship services the Bible does not condone or okay. We see lifestyles that are condoned and behaviors that are simply sponsored and been okay by churches and other religious organizations. The thought of let's just get along, or we'll agree to disagree, or let's just ignore our differences and move past this doctrinal issue. Jeremiah was warning about this. And guess what? Jeremiah was warning about this 600 years before the birth of Christ. And yet today, we still see materialism, pluralism, wanting to get along, and all these types of things that God wrote a letter to, or talked to them and berated them about. Jeremiah gave all of us today warning signs. Will you heed to these signs? I said we all kind of can appreciate warning signs. Do you appreciate the warning signs that Jeremiah was giving the children of Israel that day? Secondly, Brandon mentioned this. I thought it was a very good point, but God refuses to give up on the children of Israel. Brandon kind of talked about, I won't go any more than what he did, but basically, they do all this stuff and he still doesn't give up on them. If we watched a movie about this, we're like, just leave them alone. And God doesn't do that. Verse 9, God is contending with his people over and over again. I will plead with you, saith the Lord, and with your children's children will I plead. Verse 10, Jeremiah encourages the people to look around, see if there has ever been such a thing as this. Have you ever seen anything like this? God is amazed in verse 11 that they had made a substitution. That they actually thought that there were things out there that could take place of the living God. And he talks about there that their rejection makes our hair stand on end. And if you think about that, we've heard that phrase even in our lifetime, makes the back of your hair stand up. Today, people are compromising a central doctrine, but God doesn't give up. We see people allowing immorality, but God doesn't give up. We see people turning away from things that they know are wrong, right, yet God is still concerned about all of us. And that's an enormous blessing. It was an enormous blessing for the children of Israel, and it's an enormous blessing for us. It's also an enormous blessing for those that we love, those that we plead with, those that we talk to. It's an enormous blessing. Thirdly, God presents the people with a very clear choice towards the end of this chapter. And it's interesting, the choice is represented with water. I think that's interesting. Now, as humans, we obviously understand the importance of water. It's very important to our well-being and our life. But we also understand the theme of water that runs through the Bible. And this just is a continuation of that. But God gives a sad picture in verse 13. It says, my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and have hewn them out cisterns, broken cisterns that can hold no water. And so Jeremiah presents this choice to the children of Israel, that there is a fresh mountain stream that they can partake of, or they can use the broken cisterns that they thought was such a great idea, that they thought was such a great substitute for the living streams of water. On one hand, trying to quench their thirst, they were trying to quench their thirst by creating a man-made cistern. And I want you to picture this. the type of thing that is what is being described here is, have you seen today people that try to catch water with a barrel? They try to collect rainwater. Some of you may do that. I probably should. But imagine what that water looks like as it hits the barrel. Let's say it runs down the roof and it's got the pieces of asphalt in it and whatever muck and dirt and leaves that are in your gutter. And it flushes that and all the dirt goes with that, and then it plops down into your barrel and you're ready to drink it. No. And so the children of Israel are presented here that not only do they have a broken cistern, but they're partaking in water that's running off a roof, that's coming through this muck and dirt. And that's what they prefer. That's the substitute that they picked. And not only did they pick that substitute, but they have cisterns or barrels or holders that are broken, so they can't even catch it. And they'd rather that, Jeremiah is saying, that's the substitute they picked, than the fresh mountain waters. Makes me think of Colorado. The fresh mountain waters, the living stream that God has offered them. Some of you are like, that's what it's like to choose Diet Coke over Coke. What kind of choice is that? What kind of substitute is that? And today, we see people do this every day. We see people that don't care about God. It's not even in their thoughts. They have no idea what the scriptures say. I've talked to people that just simply don't even care they don't even want to hear it because it's just so controversial. They've found a substitute. They have found a substitute. Have you found a substitute? Are you chasing things? Are you substituting God for things that you are literally chasing? Whether it be material things, or whether it be the pluralism, or I got to work with this guy, so I really don't, and there's some validity to this, don't get me wrong. Or I'd rather be a friend with them than to really share with them what the living streams of water is, instead of the muck and the broken cisterns that they're in here with. This is what substitutes people are using and taking. Are you participating in this? We're not immune to this. I've chosen things over God. I've substituted for God sometimes. Are you doing that? Are you doing it to the point where you can't see your way through clearly? We see people today that do this all the time. So Jeremiah warned the people against humanism and pluralism and materialism. But Isaiah gave the same invitation 100 years ago. If you'll turn to Isaiah 55. Isaiah chapter 55 and verse 1. I guess we'll read this in about 52 services from now, or 51. Ho, everyone that thirsteth, come ye to the waters. And he that hath no money, come ye, buy and eat. Yea, come, buy wine and milk without money and without price. Everyone that thirsteth, come ye to the waters. That invitation was given 100 years before Jeremiah wrote this scripture. And here they are in Jeremiah chapter 2, kind of what Brandon says, here they are, carrying on. They don't care about the waters that God is offering. They care about the asphalt and the leaves and the dirt. And they can't even catch it. They can't even catch it. The same invitation is given in the New Testament. In John chapter 4 and verse 13, it says, Jesus answered and said unto her, whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in a well of water springing up into everlasting life. I didn't even mention that. They're going after water that they're going to want tomorrow. And the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And he's offering something that you'll never thirst for. Last verse. I want to offer an invitation to those that have not partaken in the waters that flow freely, that he's offered in Isaiah, he's offered in Jeremiah, he's offered in John 4. Another familiar scripture. 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 21. The like figure whereunto even baptism doth also now save us, not the putting away of the filth of the flesh, but the answer of a good conscience toward God by the resurrection of Jesus Christ. This same stream is offered to you. This same invitation that Isaiah gave and Jeremiah gave and John, Jesus, I guess Jesus, not John, but Jesus, Peter, it's the same stream, same living waters. The nice, cold stream that just you can't buy at any store. The one you can't gather up in a barrel and try to filter it and send it through some system. The one you will never thirst again for. I want to offer that invitation to anyone that has not become a child of God to be baptized, to put away the old person and to become a new person and to live a life that's not following these issues that the children of Israel had. Not trying to find a substitute, but finding the real thing. You know, I think that was one slogan from Coke. The real thing. This is the real thing. It's not some substitute. Go for the real thing. Maybe you're having issues with what we talked about as far as, man, I just am struggling with the concept of, I'm chasing after other things. I'm looking for substitutes. I can't stop. I want to try to help you stop that, and we'll ask for prayer and try to fight that battle with you and for you. One of either case, we'd ask you to come as we stand and sing the song that's been selected.